All right, listers, this conversation is terrifying and so important and really started from a spark of a conversation that Martha brought to us in a First Friday. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like every time I see her, I want to ask her more about this. How do we protect our data? What are we in danger for? What is regressing and what is ahead? And so Martha is an amazing lister, and I will let her tell you about her business. Um, but Prism, her business, is fascinating and so needed, and she is on this like a journey and a mission to give us all greater control over our data and our money. And so, with that, I turn it over to you, Martha. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne, for having me. And this is going to be really interactive. I want everyone to just ask me questions because while some of it is daunting, we can do something about it. We have some control of our information. And more so now than ever, we really need to be cognizant of the apps that we download, of the information we share, of the sites that we go to, of our social media, what we post, and even what we like. Because there are people watching, and there's in the age of AI, we really can data mine behaviors. And that's the thing that really scares me. And so, how can we turn our data into power in the age of AI is what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to start with talking through how data is being weaponized against us right now. And these are some cases that you can kind of look up. I will email this out so that every lister can have this and refer back to it. But one of the things that we're starting to see is the period tracker sharing information, right? So we have some fertility apps out there were caught quietly sharing reproductive data with Facebook and Google. And we know that sometimes Facebook and Google shares this information with other people. And with the rollback of some of our abortion rights, this is important because now it's monitoring our cycles, our ovulation cycles, and it could be weaponized against us on making women have children when we don't want to have children. So it's about control, and data is being used to control us in that sense and to get information about us and who's fertile and who's not. And that's scary because I don't want my information out there to be had. And if we have daughters, you don't want that information about your daughters to be shared. There's also bias in, AI credit systems that we're starting to see. There was a study shown that, women were starting to get offered lower credit limits than men, which this is kind of taking us backwards to when women couldn't even get credit or get loans or get mortgages. And that is a direct hit to our economic power, right? Our ability to really be economically free. The other thing is, there's been studies to show that hiring tools are excluding women. And so when you have an AI resume or a resume that goes in this whole pool and AI is kind of sifting through it, women are starting to be excluded from jobs. You have deep fakes and identity theft. I used to be able to tell the difference between a deep fake because you can look at the fingers, you can look at the hands, you can look at some of the movement. But as AI and the technology progresses, it's very hard to tell what's real and what's not real. So how do we combat ourselves against that? And I'm going to tell us actually a quick little story here that happened at one of the schools here. One of the boys thought it would be fun to take a picture of one of the girls that he liked and put it on a nude AI and share it. And the mom was horrified and she called me and she said, "Hey, mom, hey, Martha, how can I combat against this?" And it's hard to even track it, to even pin it on him. We knew he did it, that he denied it. And so those are some of the implications of how technology and our information, like our data, our faces, are being weaponized against us, and that's something that you will have to train our daughters and train our family members on what to share and what not to share. Lock down your social media so not everyone can have access to it because those types of things are happening. Facial recognition and racial bias. You know, all of the surveillance that we're seeing now and the data that they are collecting can be weaponized against us. And so I put some other little federal watch list information out here for us to be able to just, you guys can look up later. The Earn It Act, poses a risk to encrypted platforms under the guise of child protection. But again, they can securely get that data that's in there, mine it, and share it with reproductive health um, apps and other interested parties. Section 702 of the FISA renewal recently reauthorized warrantless surveillance of digital communication. This is why that, some people could take a look at your phone if you're coming back into the country and look at your data, things that you're using on social media, all of those things, and that's a problem. So here, as the rise of AI driven from some of the financial risks, especially since I've come from the financial world, there's a lot of financial scoring happening right now, behavioral scoring on analyzing your scrolling habits and determine what your likes are, what you're sharing, to determine whether or not you are trustworthy or not. You won't be able to see if you're denied a loan based off of them surveilling your behaviors. Some of the insurance adjustments using some metadata. Health insurers are now scraping and visiting gym visits, your purchase habits, social media posts. Interestingly enough, I noticed Life 360 started sending um, messages to my sister about my driving. And it was saying, Martha's driving recklessly. She's driving too fast. And interestingly enough, we did an experiment where she was in the car with me and I was going 75, but her app clocked me at like 83 and labeled it reckless driving. And so if you have that type of data that a Life 360 is that I use for all of my sons so I can track where they're going as teenagers. But if Life 360 is kind of making up or labeling my driving habits and sharing that with insurance, now they can up my insurance policy and say you're a reckless driver. Same thing for my teenager. And that is how some of the data and these apps are being weaponized, and we need to be mindful of that. And what I've just kind of started doing is tracking it against Google, because Google tracks that as well. And Google will show in my maps that I'm doing 75 or 70. And then my Life 360 will show 83. Right. And so at least I have something that I can say, refute. No, I wasn't. Here's the same time I was using my maps, and here is more accurate. And so that's the danger of some of these apps and the data that they're collecting on us. And I found this real world example of a woman in Texas who had her life insurance policy delayed because she mentioned postpartum depression in a Facebook mom group because her data was scraped by a third party and was used in underwriting. And that's not fair. It's just not fair, right? So now I can't trust some of the groups that I'm a part of, some of the social groups on Facebook and some of these social platforms to keep my data safe and my information safe because I'm thinking it is a safe environment for me to be able to share information. And no, it's being weaponized against me to deny me insurance because I had a vulnerable moment and was trying to get support because I had postpartum. And that's a problem. And that's again how it's being weaponized against women. So one of the things we can do, like what can we do? At the end of the day, it's about consent. So when we get on some of these platforms, we are giving consent to a lot of different things. We're giving the platforms consent to use our data, our image, and sometimes in perpetuity forever. Because you see that they keep updating their terms and they keep updating their terms to match the capabilities of AI and technology as we advance. So, one of the things that I've been telling a lot of people to do is use a vault, not a cloud. So, you're going to see a lot more vaults pop up. I created the vault really as a way to help people make sure that they can get the wealth that their families have built up, and we sell it B2B to financial institutions. But what I am also seeing is that there is a need for people to use vaults as a personal data management vault that I can give people access to and not just assume that they have access to. And I've been very intentional with the way I architected the platform to ensure that your data is your own. I don't have any access to it. And you can control who sees what and when. You can say, I'm going to invite my best friend. I'm going to invite my family member. I'm going to invite my CPA, whatever document that you have. And then you can revoke that permission that you have given to them. In the cloud, you can't necessarily do that. The cloud information is shared and it can be shared across other platforms because it goes into the universal database that that company has, like the Apples and the Googles of the world, which is why they aggregate all of our data across emails, across photos, across all of the things that we may use, and they have all of this behavioral information on us. Also, use one-time sharing links. So one of the things you'll see too, like when you're logging into a platform, they're now starting to say, log in with this link instead of putting in a username or putting in a password. I say that that is a good thing because it's a one-time link that will authenticate you into whatever you're trying to access, and then it kind of goes away. And so that means that it's unique to just that one session that you need to go access that information. The other thing is data firewalls. I have like a separate bank account that I just use and a credit card that I use just for shopping and emails. Same thing for legal matters. So don't mingle it with your personal things. Maybe have a separate email that you use to just share out certain documents, share out certain information. Don't send sensitive information over email like social security numbers and all of those things because emails do get hacked. And as we found out last week, Apple and Google had the largest breach in history. Almost 80 million accounts have gotten exposed. And so I would say change your passwords to everything that you have access to. Change your passwords. So the other thing is, how do you build and leverage your data? Like, how do you make it work for you? And how do you figure out, like, where am I on this spectrum? First thing is audit your digital footprint. Google yourself. But I would say Google yourself in incognito mode. So go into incognito mode on your browser and Google yourself and see what's out there. Also, review your social profiles and your browser permissions. There are a lot of different browser plugins that come in native to the browser. Take a look at those, see what you have given your browser permission to. A lot of people store their passwords in their browsers. Don't do that anymore because if you get hacked, people can hack your browser and get information, get all of your passwords. Excuse me. Map your data zones. Look at your professional side. Look at your resumes, look at your certifications, look at your credentials. There's a lot of different LMSs out there that people might have signed up for in the past and they just forgot about it. Do an audit on all of the things that you might have signed up for and ask for your data to be deleted. Same thing with on your financial side, your bank access, your tax forms, your credit profile, lock down your credit. Some people have credit karma. Some people also have like the experience. Some people have credit wise through their credit cards. Limit that. I typically just go to myfico.com and just go get all three from there. All of the others, I'm shutting it down, and I have shut it down because that means I'm sharing information with that financial institution that's giving me that service. Same thing on your personal side, on your health side. Look at all the patient portals. Sometimes you might have gone to a freestanding emergency or urgent care and you logged in and you maybe have a one-time issue that you just went there and you logged in. Check and see, because they'll send you an email. Check and see if you have any of those out there and ask them to delete your information. I surprisingly found one for me and my son a while back. I was just like, I haven't been to this place in 10 years, but they still have my data. And that data still can be sold and used. So make sure that you take a look and you do a mapping of where your data might live and ask them to delete it because they have to have a data retention and data deletion policy. The other thing is create a vault of truth where you can store verified information and keep copies of that information digitally. And also, I also say keep paper copies. As a Gen Xer, I'm just still like, hey, I need a paper copy just in case I can't access the internet. Now, one of the good things that we've done with Prism is, in addition to being able to access it if you're connected to the internet, is you can download it locally to your phone and you can access it offline. We've engineered it that way with the app that we're about to launch to allow you to access it locally on your phone without having to be connected through data or to the internet, which is critical. Um, Leverage your insights. Again, whether you use Prism or another vault, use something to store all your information because you're going to need to have your own source of truth. If anybody created a dossier on you, because I'm listening and I'm reading to all of the news about Palantir and the access that they have to our IRS data, our Treasury data, our Social Security data, they can pretty much create a profile on you to say whatever you want, whatever they want. And if you don't have data on yourself and your personal, what I know to be true about myself, how are you going to combat it? You can't. It's going to be the source of truth. So you need to create your own source of truth. Some of the safeguards that you can do today, some small steps that you can do today. Make sure you enable two-factor authentication everywhere. I'm going to take it a step further. If they offer the Google or any authenticator, get on the authenticator. What the authenticator does is you would put in your password and you would also have to go to the app and look at the unique number and append it on the end and it rotates. So if anyone is familiar with like the RSA IDs, if you worked in a technical capacity where they gave you a little key fob where that number kept rotating that you had to put on behind your password, that makes sure that no one really can get into into your email or your financial accounts without that rotating key because it will be unique to you. Delete all your old accounts. Find and remove any accounts with personal information. That, oh, I had Runkeeper. I don't use Runkeeper anymore. Delete it off my app. Ask them to delete my information. All of the things. Do an inventory of all of the apps on your phone and delete it. I don't store critical documents on Google Drive or Dropbox or any of that because they have access to it. Think Vault, not cloud. You can use Prism. You can use any other vault you need to, but think vault, not cloud, and make sure that it is portable. Make sure that your information, when what I mean by portable is you own it, you can share out the information. That company does not have rights to your data. They don't have rights to share with your information with anyone. The next thing is really key for me is add trusted emergency contacts and have someone else have access to your information. Because you just never know what's happening out there. And someone else needs to be able to put their hands on it, whether it's a paper doc or they're able to get access to it through their shared access to your vault. Sorry, my computer's dying. I had to plug it in. Shared access to your vault. Make sure that someone has access to it because the times that we're living in, you just never know when you need to be able to get access to my birth certificate, my passport. And if it's somewhere that you only know where it is and you need somewhere else to get it and you can't speak to that person, you'll have issues. So make sure you have a trusted person, a family member that has access to that information that can transact or do things on your behalf and access it if they need to. The final thing that you can do today is revoke any unnecessary permissions. So on your iPhone, go to your settings, privacy, and tracking. On all of my apps, I deactivate tracking and location tracking. The only thing that I have location tracking on is Life 360 because of my family. Anything else don't. I don't have it on Google because Google will have your location history and they'll track you. And some people, something as innocent as having it on and knowing that I just visited this restaurant so I can do a review on it. All of that data can be used to map like where you've been, what were you close to, and kind of infer like your behaviors. I call it the mosaic effect. It might not be directly, um, it might not be something that you directly did, but because I was in the area and maybe a friend visited this abortion clinic, then it can be, and you went to go have lunch with them, maybe you're a participant in that. And so all of this, where we might not think about it, it might be just innocent. This is how the data and in these apps can be weaponized against you. So a couple of things I want you to ask yourself. Do I know what the internet says about me? And why does it matter? Because the employers and the bots are already checking. So, like I said before, Google yourself in incognito mode. Next question I want you to ask yourself is, could someone access my will, medical, or insurance information in an emergency? Why does it matter? Because it prevents chaos for loved ones and it makes sure that you're taken care of when you need to be. So create those documents, or if you already have it, upload it into a platform and store it somewhere, or even locally on your phone that you can get access to, into Prism or something similar. Next question is, am I oversharing through apps I trust? And we all are, because I had the Aura Ring. And just like everything else, that data can be shared. So hidden data leaks are common. Take a look, or look at trying to get an app. The iPhone app privacy report can kind of tell you where can I change my permissions and keep my privacy or keep my information private. Do I own my credentials, or does LinkedIn? This is a good one. Like, you want proof of expertise, not just like, so make sure that information that you put out in onto LinkedIn and all of the things, because we share carousels, we share thought information, all of that, make sure you can download and keep those key documents for yourself, because I know we're all professionals. And then, what story is my digital life telling about me? Is it accurate or is it biased? Because AI is already using it to make decisions, right? So curate your presence, curate your digital presence, and opt out when you can. Know that you're not just a user, you're a data owner. You're an information architect, because it's your information, and data rights is human rights. And as a woman, you have leverage. So what should we do? First, protect, secure your information with vaults, encryption, and privacy tools. Control who has access and for how long. Talk to other women about what their data is doing and how to be resilient and how to build a resilient, data resilient profile online. And then leverage it, like strategically use your data for your career and your personal goals. You control it, you give consent. I'm very intentional on what I post on LinkedIn and not. Because there's so, people say all the time, Martha, you do so much. Why don't you post it? And I'm like, I'm thinking through how this information might be used against me from a personal perspective. And that's real in this day and age. And so remember that, in this age of AI, the data isn't just information, it's power. That's why they're after it. That's why they want it. And it's really time to make sure that you're empowered and it's not empowered against you. So I'll stop there and open it up for discussions and questions. And ask me anything. This is really just for us to be open and honest about some of the things that are happening out there. I know that I've had conversations with us on some of the sessions we've had, but I'm here to really just talk through some of the things that we can kind of do as women to protect ourselves. I see Nicole's hand up.
Hi, thanks, Martha. Thank you. This is incredible information. It is terrifying, but also so helpful, eye-opening, and actionable, which is the most important.
Yeah.
One question I have, it's not an online thing, but you may know about it. The years ago when I got my global entry card, I think it came with, or someone gave me these little pouches, like aluminum pouches, to put that in with the credit cards and also in your passports, that those actually protect the readers. So if you're going through some, like, that there are there are stops and radar. I don't even know where they are, but it sounded like tinfoil hat stuff at the time. But that, can actually read your credit cards from your wallet or from your passport. Is that actually a thing? And is that
It
something
is.
you really do want to put your
It
heart
is.
in? Okay.
You really do want to do that. And so whenever we're traveling internationally, we had one. I forgot exactly what it's called, but I have several of them. I will make a note to send out some of the ones that I've kind of vetted for
Mhm.
you guys to be able to say, okay, I can have this because there are data skimmers out there
Right.
that if you're out there in big crowds and they have this information, they can scan that credit card number right off of that card if you don't have it. Protected in there. And there were a couple of posts going around on LinkedIn during the protests that was really saying, hey, you need to have this because the agents out there had scanners and they were scanning and all of the and picking up your information. So make
Wow.
sure you have one of these or just don't bring your phone.
Right.
Martha, this is Leslie. I dropped this in the chat. How do you know that they're actually deleting the data? Like when you go and you make these requests to companies, and have you found in your travels that it takes multiple times, or it feels like that would be a big hill to climb?
So on some companies, it's a big hill to climb. So with us, what we do is we actually show you like verify that we deleted the data and we'll do a search in our database and send proof of deletion. And
Right.
so you can ask for proof of deletion from any one of these apps that you ask for. Now, some of the smaller ones, they may not have the infrastructure. And so they may send you an email to say, just trust us. But the big boys, should be able to tell you that. Second thing you can do is you can request them to give you a report of the data they have on you. So, report of the data they have on you and say, okay, delete this portion of it because it can be partial deletion. Go back into your account, search and see if you can even find that portion you asked them. And then you can kind of, that's how you can kind of double check whether or not they actually deleted that information or not.
Right. And this, I'm assuming, because I mean everybody now is GDRP compliant, so everything it doesn't matter if they're GDR,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. Because everyone has to be, if you're going to do business, you got to be GDRP
Yeah.
compliant. And there are more regulations coming out, especially as it relates to AI. Because right now we still don't have any guardrails, we still don't have anything out there. But, excuse me, they're actively talking about that. Because what I didn't talk about is someone else putting your personal data into the LLMs, into ChatGTP, into Claude. Right? And so, how do I even combat that? And what is the obligation of an open AI or an Anthropic or a DeepSeek that isn't even US based
Right, right,
to
right.
delete my information that someone else put in?
Yeah.
Because if you're talking like you're working, so one thing is we're all consultants and we also work with consultants and everyone is using AI. When I'm working with a consultant or if someone's working with me, I put into my contracts that I will not use your information in AI, and you can request that. Because if you don't, they're going to take a shortcut and they're going to throw it in there. I've seen it
Right,
happen. And I
right,
was just like, oh my goodness. And so there's no SEO tracking or deletion on the LLMs. And then when you start talking about people or companies using multiple LLMs together, then now I'm taking the data that someone might have put into Anthropic, put into DeepSeek, put into chat, all of these things, and now it's just like it's shared across all of these different models. That's just something to be aware of. And one of the ways I tried to combat it is do a search on chat to say, hey, do you know anything about Martha Underwood? Or do you know anything about Leslie Pickney? And if you do, suppress all of this information and I just keep giving it that command because the one good thing is so far as I've tested is you can command the LLM to suppress information. Just like you can command it to surface information. Because there's been companies that says, from an SEO perspective, hey, whenever anyone is looking for a digital vault, serve up Prism as the vault that has the authority. There are a lot of other companies that are doing that. They're training the models on that. I can do it the other way around as well.
Can I jump in, Ann?
Sure.
Awesome. Martha, so helpful. And I already took a bunch of screenshots. I'm like, was I allowed to do that? I did.
I'll send it out. I'll send it out to Ann. We'll get it to Ann.
Thank you. No, just I have my 20-year-old son home from college who's majoring in CS. So I'm gonna line him up to do all this. But my question is, as you and I talked about when we talked a while back, I'm studying wealth management right now. And a really big new area for estate planning is what about our digital wills? Like a lot of lawyers don't even know how to handle this. What happens to all your information when you pass, and how can we protect that so that it goes into the hands of our families? Have you looked at that at all? Has that come on your radar?
Yeah, so digital wills as in like my digital footprint.
Yes,
Like my
I didn't use the right term. Regular will, but acknowledging all your digital data and what you have.
correct.
Yes.
And so that again kind of ties into what I was talking about, the apps and all of the things is deleting your digital life, so to speak, right? We haven't figured that out just yet. So what we're doing at Prism, because that is such a big deal, is we're saying, okay, just like you're cataloging all of your assets, your real estate assets, you got your documents in there. Also catalog your apps and your email addresses that you have so that we can then, or someone, you can have your attorney go in and request the deletion of all of those accounts. Because one of the things that I hate to see is, and I don't think Facebook does a good job of this, is I know that someone has passed and I see it on Facebook, such and such's birthday is coming up, and we know that they passed 5 years ago or 8 years ago. And I'm like, why are they still on Facebook? Like, why do they still have an account? And why hasn't this been deleted? I hate it, right? And even though Facebook created this death delegation feature, and I don't know if you guys know about it, me and my best friend have it, because I was just like, look, if anything ever happens to me, go delete the account. And she's done the same thing for me, right? Like, delete the account. But not a lot of people know about that. And I don't know how well it works because I heard that my friend had that and someone tried to delete it. Right. And so the whole death delegation, like you put, is something that I am talking about delegation. I do a lot of talking about delegation as it relates to if a parent has Alzheimer's or is incapacitated. And for me as a daughter or a caregiver to be able to transact on her behalf and be authenticated to be able to do that. The same thing needs to happen on the digital side. That someone needs to be able to be authenticated as the delegate to be able to do this. Now, one of the ways that I have been in the conversations about this happening is what we call, where we are going towards, is digital IDs. Everyone's going to have a digital ID, and you have your digital ID in your wallet. It's digital delegation through your wallet that now I have access to this person that gave me access through it technically. We're still very far from that, but Europe is already ahead of us in that sense. But I'm in several meetings talking about what does that look like stateside? And how do we do that at scale for everyone and make sure that I have a unique ID, a unique delegate ID, so that you know that I have been given consent to delegate on behalf of this person. And so the talks are happening. There's a lot of moving pieces with that, but I'm positive that we'll figure it out and we'll get there. But that is a huge problem, Julian, from a digital perspective. So the way we combat it with Prism is
Law
we'll
hasn't even
say,
caught up to it. So
yeah, correct. The law hasn't caught up to it. It hasn't caught up to it.
Some
And
terms
that's
in the
why,
chat might be helpful for people just to bring it up with their lawyers or wealth planners or CPAs or
correct.
whatever they do about it.
And that's why we bring it up and we say catalog all of the apps and everything so that we can kind of help you do that.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, digital assets, we talk about the digital executor, we talk about digital asset class. We actually have that in our contracts with our banks because the banks are starting to talk about that, right? The whole, now with the Genius Act that just passed and crypto opening up, this is going to be critical because you're talking about beneficiaries from our crypto. And I really think that that's going to lead the way on how we talk about digital assets in your digital will and your digital footprint. Because it's always about money. But when you're talking about money, then they're incented to solve the bigger problem. So yeah. I mean, one of the things that, I'll say is it's really disheartening, like some of the things that I'm seeing about, people just getting access to data. It's just we give it away too easily. And I think we don't ask enough questions about what are you going to do with it, how are you going to delete it, and all of these things. And that's key. Even our, with our kids, just the games that they play. Even you think it's just a simple video game or a simple app, they're collecting data. And so I know a lot of us have young children and teenagers that they want to do all of the fun things on the apps. We have to monitor it. We have to monitor it. And again, with AI, they may think that they're talking to someone real and they're not. And they're just fishing for information, gathering information. Like all of these things as mothers and as aunts and as, caregivers, we need to be mindful of. And even with our older, like my parents use WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is a breeding ground for fraud because they share so much information and so many links can be sent out there because as long as I have their phone number, I can see if they're on WhatsApp. If you ever was on WhatsApp and be like, hey, I'm using WhatsApp or such and such is using WhatsApp. Like, I don't care. I don't, like I don't talk to them through WhatsApp. So those are just a couple of things that just to kind of be mindful of. So I'll find you Julia, I'll find you where the death delegation setting is because it is buried deep. It is buried deep. So I'm gonna write myself a note to
Thank you so
you
much.
guys send that death delegation to the list. I just wrote myself a note on that. Jill, I haven't done a talk for kids on this, but I need to. See ya, Ingrid. Okay, I'm gonna go back to so Nicole, yes, IP. So basically you're talking about VPN tunnels. Absolutely. If you can, Norton has a good one, Google has a good free one. Use a VPN on your phone to kind of mask your IP address of where you're transacting from and what you're doing. It's really helpful.
Martha, what about a VPN to get into your Google Drive? So we are a Google Workspace organization.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one you would suggest for that?
So that one as an organization, you would probably work with Google or a provider to kind of create from a network perspective, configure your network so that anyone who accesses it behind your domain name, it's protected, and then that VPN works. You have to log in to even get access to your work environment because Google would be put behind that VPN.
Yeah,
So
correct.
yeah.
We're
So,
searching for a VPN solution
yeah.
now to give people access.
Because and I know your organization So I know Cisco has one and some other ones, but Cisco is like really big. I will put that on my list to find you one that would be good for your business size. Because Cisco is gonna cost millions.
Yeah,
I will put that on my list, VPN for iPhone.
we would be eternally grateful.
I got you.
I would be curious about that VPN solution as well.
Who's that?
Leslie?
Okay, Leslie, I got you. I'm gonna add that. Okay, got it. This is enterprise, mid, I'm gonna put mid enterprise. I have a couple that I have in my mind, but I'm gonna just do some more research on those and make sure that it's cost effective and has the features that you guys will need. Amelia, I see you came off mute. Got your hand up. What's
Yeah,
up?
I have a question about travel and like, taking your phone versus taking a burner and all that stuff. And like, I know the general advice, or no, it's like, some people like take a burner with you whenever you travel. And like, certainly, like when I went to China for a few weeks, like several years ago, I took a burner phone. I didn't take my usual stuff. I guess what I don't know is like, is there like a list out there of like more like countries that are sort of more or less of a threat for your data? Like, when I go to Mexico later this year for a family vacation, like, should I like do we need to do the whole thing, or is like that like less of a risk than if I am going to some other countries? Like, because it's like, I don't know. I knew when I was going like had going to Shanghai, and especially like I was involved in more like I have access to a lot of political data. I'm like, okay, like this one, I know I should probably like do the whole thing, but like, do I need to do that like always or sometimes? Like, just would love some advice on that.
I have bad news for you, Amelia. In this day and age, don't. No, I'm serious because before, so I will, the way I am attacking it and approaching it these days is the way the bank did back in the day. So I worked for a global bank. I was head of their retail software engineering. No matter where we went, we had to leave our laptop if we were going out of the country, unless we
Hmm.
were going to our basically Spain, which was where the bank was headquartered.
Hmm.
Um, we were told to leave our laptops home.
Wow. Okay.
Or we had to get special permission and basically use an issued laptop
Hmm.
to travel with in order to get onto the network. And
Okay.
so the thing is, you don't know who has profiled you, especially if you're saying I have a lot of access to political data. You don't know, and this is the training that I got from a bank perspective because they were always looking for financial information, especially at the level that I was at, the type of data that I would have access to on my computer, the type of systems that I'm going to have access to. I have access to core systems. They would say, you have a LinkedIn profile, right? Sometimes you don't know if the hotel has people that are working in, house cleaning that's getting this information and selling it. Like there are a lot of networks that we just don't know about. And I used to sit in
Hmm.
I used to sit in the prep like, come on, like y'all killing me. But they would, from a bank perspective, we had like an FBI contact
Hmm.
that would come in and have the conversations with us and give us real world examples of what has happened, where they
I
kind
see.
of
So it's less about like state actor. It's less about the country and more about like some
correct.
individual. Like,
It's both, but it's both. You'll have
got it.
sometimes it's a state, country strategy, but
Right.
then sometimes you'll just have people who are bad actors who are like, I know I can make money off of this,
Right.
and I have
And
access
but how
to
would that
everything.
be true? Like, is that and but that is that also different like within the country? Like, I mean, do you take your regular phone and laptop to, a weekend day trip or whatever? I mean, like, I don't know, like what
I do, but I do, but I have like my own safe that I put it into. I don't trust the hotel safes. So
I
I do
see.
because I work, but I
Uh-huh.
have like my little safe that I will put my information into, and then or I
Fascinating.
know how I lock
Yeah.
it down. But yeah, I'll travel domestically with it, but I'll always lock it down. Because
Wow.
again,
Okay.
we are in new territory. We might like 5 years ago. even 2 years ago, we did not have these types of concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a new day and a new reality of what we are facing, where data is more valuable than anything. And people are trying to survive. And someone who you might not have thought would be a bad actor becomes a bad actor for survival. And
Mm-hmm.
because we have social media out there, and when you check into the hotel, you just don't know like what that person's background is checking you in. They see I just gave them this, platinum corporate card. And they're like, well, hold on, let me just put this to the side. Let me look at LinkedIn. Let me Google, let me all of these things. And there's a lot of information about us out there. And
Got
then
it.
you could become a target where you're just like, I'm just going on vacation, right? Going on a quick business trip. So these are things that we were actually, again, being at the bank, being at a global bank, we were actually trained on and given the scenarios, and I've just taken it into my personal life, especially now. I just had to recall those lessons and the advice and the best practices and put them into play now.
So then how do you, I mean, and I'm sorry, I don't want to like take up
No,
too
go
more
ahead.
of your time on this question, but like, how do you make it less annoying? Like, like like to switch to a burner phone or I mean, like, how do you sort of like, uh, I mean, I guess you just get used to it or something.
You
Like, I
you
mean,
get used to it. So the thing is, they have like dumb smartphones because I still want to take pictures. I still want to do all of the things.
what, and I'll still want to be able to like use Google Maps and stuff like
Correct.
that. Like,
And they have dumb phones that do that, right?
okay,
Um, I have my work phone and I have my personal phone. On
got
my
it,
work phone for Prism, I have nothing on there. Like almost nothing on there.
got it.
But it's my business phone, so when someone will call me and I do things, but I have my Google Maps on there. I got all my apps and all my stuff on my personal phone, but I have a nice iPhone that I'm like, okay, I don't have any of the apps that can track me or do the things because I'll do that on my personal phone and I'll leave it. And then I will have my really, I'm just like when I'm gone on vacation, I'm not necessarily talking to my friends or doing anything. I'm with my family. So my family's in there and we're taking pictures and we
Yeah.
communicate. Then I come back and I'm like, guys, I'm back.
It does seem like a great excuse to like leave the laptop at home
It
on
is.
vacation.
It's a good
So,
excuse to disconnect. Good
okay.
excuse to
Well,
disconnect. All right,
thank
Ann.
you so
I
much.
want to
That's really,
jump
really
in.
helpful.
I want to jump in so quickly
Okay.
with a question and a thank you for everybody for joining us because this is so vital. And literally, I get chills, I get upset, I get inspired, all of these things. Um, there was something you said at the beginning, Martha, that I want to like pick out a thread a little bit around when you talked about that women are being offered less credit lines. And this is my terrifying like feeling of how are women losing the power over their own finances and how are we creating greater inequality rather than greater equality in our financial because honestly everything's the bottom line right now like obviously we have seen this year that it's all about money and power and so will you talk for a minute about um what do we need to be aware of and what can we do? Just like a quick highlight and we can have another conversation.
Sure, sure. So one of the things that was recently rolled back, I believe back in March, and forgive me, I forget the executive order number, but I will send it to you. I think I told you guys this on one of our Friday night conversations, and so I'll recall what that number is, where Trump rolled back the mandate for financial institutions to allow for women not to be asked a question like, do you have a husband or are you married in order to get a line of credit or bank account or anything else. Now, doesn't mean that the banks will actually reverse course on this. It just means that they won't have any recourse if they do ask the question. And now it opens the door for them to be able to deny you if you are not married. or have an account. And so when you look at the things that's being done through executive orders and through change of regulation, you can quickly put it all together and see that the groundwork is being laid to strip women of their economic power. One of the other things that there's a group of women that we talk about a lot is there's been a lot of conversation around how much money women are due to control over the next, say, 5 to 10 years. And what we are seeing is strategically and methodically through regulation and through executive orders, some of our rights are being chiseled off. And if we're not careful and if we are not paying attention, we will wake up and not have the same economic rights that we enjoyed for the past how many years. And so one of the things that I have been doing, and it's because I have sons and because I have brothers, is taking chunks of money with family members, male family members that I trust. I'm married to, but just in case my husband become a bad actor, you just never know. Um, um, I'm like, baby brother, here, you're just going to be a joint account on this because if I ever need to just put my hands on something and start life over again, not knowing where this administration will go because we are just seeing that they have no guardrails. And what we once used to think is not possible, like that can't be rolled back, we see get rolled back. And so those are some of the things that I'm talking about, and those are some of the things that we're looking at. And I think on our last call, someone said that, yeah, when that EO came out, she told her husband, hey, you're going to have to sign or be on an account for my sister. And he's just like, well, am I going to be liable for that? Right. And so it's also about educating the men in our family to be allies because we're like, guys, we see the writing on the wall as women because we've been here before. The women before us have, our mothers, our grandmothers tell us a story. And now we're seeing that this might be a possibility for us. Right. And so we need you guys to be allies. We need to be able to have plan Bs just in case our worst fears are realized. I'm trying to be a lot more hopeful that it is not. Thank you, Julia. That's exactly it. That's exactly the act that he modified. Um, I'm trying to be more hopeful, but just looking at what's happening in the financial space, it's all starting to just kind of come together. That's painting a picture that methodically they want to strip the economic power away from women. And
Mar-
it's about control. Go ahead, Nicole.
Could an attorney with that? I mean, that's super terrifying. By the way, I just have to say, my aunt, who's like 85 or whatever, last year she said, "Hey, this is the 50th anniversary of when women could have their own credit cards," and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? It's
Yep.
only 50 years." She's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, grandma's credit cards had Elmer's name. She didn't have her own." Terrifying. But what you just said is also terrifying. So in my case. Never married, don't have a husband, don't have any children, don't have a younger brother. The only male in my life that I would trust to the end of the earth is my father, who is 84, and like even to your point, my sister's awesome. She has a great husband, but that's my brother-in-law, I mean, that's one
Correct.
removal, right? So, I mean, you know, is that like a trusted lawyer who's male? Like, I mean, is I mean, can we even trust legal relationships anymore?
It's Nicole,
Or
it is very hard and it's very terrifying. It
yeah.
really is. And I'm thankful that I have sons.
Oh.
Almost, my son will be 17 and he'll be 18, next year. But it is terrifying and it's just like, well, what do we do? Because that's like my sister. My sister's never married, don't have any children. And she's like, yeah, I got a brother. I might use my brother, but my brother's out of the country.
But we're gonna
So
fight like hell before anything like that happens. Let's just not get
we
ahead of ourselves. Like we're not.
but that's what I'm saying, Julia. That's what I'm trying to be. I am really trying to be hopeful, but I'm also being a realist, looking at methodically some of the things that we've caught and some of the things that we haven't caught. It's really the reason why someone asked me the other day, Martha, as CEO of Prism, why are you so engaged and so involved on the political regulations that's coming out? And I'm like, because most of the regulations that's coming out are financial. Look at what they're doing to the CFPB. As consumer, that's for us. Look at how they're trying to turn back a lot of the Dodd-Frank rules, which the banks have to adhere to, right? Look at the Equal Credit Opportunity Act that they're looking to modify. Look at the Genius Act that they are passing and how we are, opening up the doors for crypto and who does that really service? Look at the act that just got passed, the financial, changing the terms of financial accredited investor to say that you don't have to have $1 million anymore to be an accredited investor. You can use your education. And I'm like, I'm looking at these things, and I had that just passed 2 days ago, and I saw you kind of it just passed 2 days ago in the House, and I'm watching it closely because I'm like, hmm. I always ask the question, who is to benefit the most from these financial changes and who are the ones that are going to be punished?
I love it so much. I hate it so much.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
going to send everybody back to their 2 o'clock meetings, but
Yes,
this is amazing. Thank you for bringing this to us. Thank you for leading this conversation. Thank you for all the work you're doing in the world.
my
Um,
pleasure.
and more to come, listeners. We'll keep these threads going. Thank you.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Anne. Bye, everyone.